Due to recent YouTube updates, comments and likes have become more important than ever. I beg you to please consider doing exactly that. I read every comment that you write me and answer whenever possible and or need. I'm also open to suggestions for future content. My videos are created without the use of AI, so please support your fellow human content creator against clanker slop. Thank you. It wasn't often that a kid tune was created. There were some moral issues the Garden View had on that, but they understood that the kid tunes were just too popular to simply pass up. It all started with a brought-to-life Toodles tune. Kid tunes required special care, even more than their adult counterparts. Their personalities were more innocent, and while adult tunes had the necessary autonomy to just be left alone for a while to be trusted that they would never leave the confines of the Garden View Center, kid tunes were different. And even after the fall of the Garden View and the enactment of the Iker extractions, kid tunes were rarely revived by the forces behind it. Already, it was an event when new tunes from the show were manifested. You were one of these kid tunes. You were Cathy, a black cat-themed tune with big, wide eyes giving you an almost void-like appearance, with a white, glowing mouth, eyes, and nose. What made your character unique was that you were created as a vent character by one of the show's writers, who at the time went through a nasty divorce. So that was the theme of your character. You had gone into cartoon history as the second cartoon character whose parents got a divorce. Well, usually characters such as yourself were meant to take away the fear children had during a divorce of the touchy subject. You were a whole different beast. You were neglected due to your parents only having attention for their court hearings. While praised for its realistic depiction, it still left a negative undertone, especially by parents who saw your show's depiction. However, you were an extremely kind tune and very helpful. Brought to life, this kindness manifested in your power to help the others survive longer, having the unique ability to be ridden. You had very high speed and stamina and could for a short while carry other tunes on your back to bring them to safety. Your stealth stats were mediocre at best, as you were clumsy, and due to your glowing eyes and mouth. Your extraction speed was abysmal as well. You were paired up with a Gordy, Eclipser, and a Brusher tune, descending deep into the Garden View. It wasn't your first floor. You had hands-on experience with Twisted from your last, causing you to be a little disturbed. You stood in a nearby corner, staring at your feet, while the others were talking excitedly.
Cathy?
Gordy approached, tilting his head.
Are you okay? You have been quiet.
He asked curiously.
I never saw Twisted before.
Gordy smiled.
If I can get used to it, you can.
He smiled brightly, before popping off the top of his head, pulling out a lollipop from his pumpkin head.
Trick or treat.
He chuckled. You took it with a quiet thanks, licking the candy with a white dusted blush. Your black little spear of a tongue dragged over the sweet surface. It was a gesture of comfort you wouldn't forget, even though it didn't work. Soon the elevator opened again. The moment the door swung, everyone bolted. It wasn't panic, not yet, just instinct. No one wanted to be the first to stop moving. Feet slapped against the floor, the echoes ricocheting through the dark. You ran with them for a while, until the shapes of the others vanished into the dark. Their voices faded too, swallowed by the size of the place. And when you finally slowed down, You were alone. The only light came from the faint glow of your eyes and the soft glimmer from broken bulbs that lined the ceiling like dying stars. The air was stale, heavy with dust, and the sour bite of ichor. It clung to everything, smeared along the walls, crusted on the floor in uneven patches that stuck to your feet when you stepped wrong. You moved carefully now, your paws made soft taps, too soft to be comforting. Every sound you made felt too loud. Even the quiet hum in your chest echoed back at you from the hollow corridors. The floor stretched ahead in long, empty hallways. Rooms opened on either side. Doorways without doors, darkness yawning inside them. Somewhere deep in the maze of walls, a pipe dripped. The sound was rhythmic. Drip, drip, drip. You glanced down at one of the stains spreading across the floor. The ichor shimmered faintly when your light touched it. Slick and black, almost alive. It trailed toward one of the open rooms like a trail, but you didn't follow it. You knew better now. Every now and then, a flicker of motion caught the corner of your vision. Not moving exactly, just the feeling of it. The way shadows bent wrong, the light didn't quite settle where it should. You tried not to look too long. You tried to keep walking. Old posters hung crooked on the walls, faded images of smiling toons, their ink peeling from the paper. A few had been scratched out, faces erased entirely. You brushed your hand against one of them as you passed, leaving a smudge of dust behind. You turned another corner. The air shifted, cooler now, a little thinner. Somewhere in the dark, machinery was running, faint and distant. The sound pulsed through the metal under your feet like a heartbeat. You couldn't tell if it was from the extractors or something else. And you decided to whisper the names of your companions. Gordy? Prussia? Anyone here? Nothing. The sound didn't even echo. It just vanished. A flicker above, one of the bulbs popped, glass scattering across the floor. The shards caught your glow and fractured it, scattering tiny stars across the metal for a few heartbeats before fading back into the dark. You crouched and brushed one aside, staring at your reflection in the jagged edge. For a second, you didn't recognize yourself, just two glowing eyes staring back. You straightened and kept walking. The hall bent again, the walls narrowing, the smell of ichor grew stronger. There was a low humming sound now. Mechanical, constant, like something spinning below the surface. Maybe it was an extractor, maybe it wasn't. The stains on the floor were thicker here. You had to step between them carefully. They looked fresh, glistening. One of your feet slipped on a slick patch and your hand hit the wall to steady yourself. It left a smear where your palm had touched, a tiny ghost of your presence. The air felt heavier and you realized how quiet it had become. No machines now. No echoes, no distant steps, just the sound of your heartbeat. Somewhere beyond the next corner, the faint, wet sound of something moving. You didn't call out, you just listened. A triangle-shaped ears twitching. A scream! A cold shower washed over you. You made a 180-degree turn, rushing forward. Your feet bounced you towards the noise, shoulders brushing a shelf as you made a quick right turn, down a dark hallway until it was a Boxton. his little hand stretched out like a zombie, and the long, dangerous claw emerging from its head was threateningly swiping the air towards Gordy. He kicked his feet helplessly, while the Twisted just mumbled and chuckled, unable to truly speak. "Gordy!" you shouted, the Twisted glancing at you, freezing for a moment. The pumpkin boy tried crawling away, but the massive arm shot from the boxen's head and snapped at him, scratching his face. He screamed in pain as the wound burned, leaking ichor. Without thinking, you burst into a sprint, going on all fours as you did whenever you ran full speed, and as you got closer to Gordy, it was as if time slowed down. Your eyes were wide open like spotlights, your void-like black body practically invisible in the darkness as you ran past Gordy between the space of the boxen and him. At the same time, the pumpkin instinctively grabbed you by the back of your neck. You felt a heavy pull at your throat, followed by a silent whomp as his weight was now on your back. Wind whipped his stinging face as he started to whine. "Oh," he cried in your ear as his face hit the back of your head. But you were already gasping too much. You couldn't speak while running like this. You could feel exhaustion tearing at your sides, and so you skittered, drifted over the floor to the right, into the small alcove of a playroom, hidden from view. You stopped only once you were sure the sound of the boxen's scraping claws had faded behind you. Your paws ached, chest rising and falling in fast, shaky gulps. The dim light from your face spilled over cracked walls covered in faded scribbles, drawings of stars, stick figures, and smiling faces that no longer existed. Looked like a place kids once played in, not just smelled like dust and oil. Gordy slid down from your back, his pumpkin head knocked softly against your shoulder before he hit the ground with a quiet thud. He didn't say anything at first, he just stood there, hands balled up, shaking slightly. Then his knees gave out. He sat down on the floor and hugged his round little body, his flame flickering low inside the carved grin. When he looked up at you, the fire behind his eyes was almost gone. "I thought I was done for," he whimpered, voice cracking halfway through. His lower lip wobbled and he bit it hard enough that the edges of his grin dented inward. I didn't even see it coming." You crouched beside him. The silence stretched. You didn't know what to say, so you just reached out. Your hand hovered for a second, unsure before you placed it gently on his shoulder. He flinched, but didn't pull away. The tiny tremor in his body made your chest hurt. So you rubbed his shoulder slowly. He stared down at you. Those paw prints. Something in his breath steadied. "Hey," you murmured. "It's gone now." He sniffled. I know." The sound came out more like a silent cry than a word. You sat behind him, tail curled over your feet. The two of you framed by the quiet hum of distant machinery. The light from your face painted soft shadows across the cracked floor. You leaned your head against his, careful not to hit him too hard. He blinked a few times and then laughed once, short and watery. "Weird," he mumbled. "You're warm. I didn't think cats were warm when they glowed like that." He smiled a little. I never heard of that." He sniffled again, wiping his face with the back of his sleeves. He sniffled again, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. I don't
I guess.
He laughed once, a quiet ha, softer this time. Then, without warning, he slumped against you fully. The weight of him was small. He smelled faintly of old sugar and wax. His little arms wrapped around your middle, squeezing tight. You froze, unsure of what to do, before you somewhat hesitantly hugged him back. Your paws pressed lightly against him. Gordy buried his face at your shoulder, his muffled voice trembling.
Hey, I just wanna disappear.
You didn't argue. You just let your hand move up and down his back in slow, steady motions. Every now and then, he hicced a little. The sound was small and tired. You kept your voice low, just above a whisper.
We can't just disappear. We have to stick together.
He didn't answer, but you could tell he heard you. His shaking started to ease. You felt him take one deep breath and then another. Eventually, his grip loosened and he pulled back just enough to look at you. His eyes flickered faintly again, the familiar orange returning to life.
And thanks for not leaving me alone, Kathy,
he said. His voice was a little shaky, but clearer now. You reached up and wiped a bit of ichor off his cheek. He grimaced, but smiled anyway. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind you that you were both still alive. Outside, something clanged in the distance, a pipe perhaps, or something else moved. The sound made both of you jump. Gordy clutched your arm on instinct.
"Quiet,"
he whispered.
"If you cry, it'll hear us."
He nodded quickly, wiping his face. Both sat there for a few more seconds, listening, breathing, waiting for the sound to fade. And when it finally did, you gave him a small nuzzle on the side of his head. A tiny gesture, the way tunes did when words didn't work anymore. He smiled faintly and whispered,
"Okay. Let's keep going."
You stood first, offering your hand. He took it, his little fingers gripping tight. The glow from your eyes lit just enough of the hallway ahead to see the next turn. You looked at each other, scared, tired, but still among the living. And then you stepped back into the darkness together. Hey, you reached the end of the video. That makes you part of an exclusive club. Our secret password is Cheap Thrills. Put the secret message in your comment below to tell fellow members you watched the video until the very end. Lastly, before I say goodbye, I would normally shout out my channel members. However, due to losing monetization, I currently do not have access to both channel memberships as well as a list of previous channel members. Nevertheless, I'm eternally grateful to the channel members I used to have, and in the case memberships get reinstated, I hope I'll see you again. Thank you for watching.